Hello and greetings, my friend. Welcome back to the next episode here of the Red Delta Project podcast and live stream Q&A here on the Red Delta Project YouTube channel. I'm your host, as always, Matt Schifferly, and today's topic is answering the simple question, will getting in shape make you happier? And if it does or doesn't, what are the variables that go into ensuring that you do? Because ultimately, this whole diet and exercise thing can certainly lead you down a path of a more happier, healthier, and fulfilling lifestyle. Unfortunately, they can also do exactly the opposite, which I've certainly had many years of experience in myself, and I've seen this happen many times in those who pursue health and fitness, where it makes them unhealthy, it makes them weaker, it makes them physically less healthy, it also makes them emotionally unhappy. It also is something that can be relative to the whole beautiful strength aspect in my upcoming program. The beautiful strength program is basically how do you use health and fitness to basically just be more attractive. And when it comes to being attractive, it goes far beyond body fat percentage and biceps, because one of the things that we humans instinctively pick up on is we're naturally attracted to people who are just healthier emotionally, to people who are just happier. Few things that will enhance your level of attractiveness, like a simple smile and a genuine laugh, a cheery disposition. But if your healthy habits are doing the opposite and making you more miserable and stressed and anxious and self-conscious and insecure and promoting all of the negative things that go into your unattractiveness, then it's actually going the opposite way. And we're going to be looking at some of the strategies that you want to observe and how many of the common messages and popular rhetoric in our fitness culture are actually gearing you towards being as unhappy as possible, largely to a degree to just get you to sell you things that you really don't need. And because that's a big part of just marketing messages in general, is that happy people don't go out and buy stuff a lot of times. They're like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm good. No, a lot of stuff out there is about trying to promote unhappiness, to get you to be miserable for someone else's control over you and your healthy habits and the money in your pocketbook. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how to use it for your benefit, not your detriment, but the benefit for other people. Goodness gracious, my comments just turned off. There we go. All right. Calisthenics Odyssey saying, no, brother, your method works well with these build and strengthen methods. Yes, grind style calisthenics, the two-set strategy that I talked about in yesterday, or not yesterday's, but last week's episode is a good strategy, as well as the official program for routine for the beautiful strength workout routine as well. Michael's coming on in. Good to see you. Good afternoon, Matt. Yes, getting in shape helps in stress levels. It can certainly do that. Healthy doctor reports, and even sleeping better. Yes, it certainly can. But again, my friends, it can also do the opposite. We want to be aware of the idea of, well, just go do the work and it's all going to be fine in the end. Like, just eat healthy, just work out, just push yourself, and it's always going to be fine. It's kind of the old adage that hard work always pays off, when the reality that many people face is, no, it very often does not pay off. It's very often not worth it. And just because you're eating right and exercising does not in any way, shape, or form guarantee or even give you the good odds of success, because you certainly can, figuratively, do everything right and end up with the exact opposite result that you were going after. And that's really a point I want to hammer in today, is don't just assume the hard work will pay off, that, oh, if I put in a lot, then I'm going to get out an equal measure or more so, because that very often does not happen. But if we're blind to that fact, then we're not nearly as critical and analytical of our habits on what is actually going to be worthwhile and which ones we should certainly discard because they're not in our personal alignment. Peter Birdseye saying, we are either a good medicine or bad, our choices, our focus, our values, morals, etc. Very good. So a lot of times there's a lot of nuance too, because one of the things to also pay attention to is that what may be healthy for you now can be very unhealthy for you at a different time, and vice versa. right? What may be unhealthy for you 5 years ago could be very healthy for you now. When we get into this black and white world in fitness of like, this is good food, this is bad food, eat this, don't eat that, work out this way, don't work out that way. These messages promote very quickly because they make for great social media fodder and stuff, but they ignore how fitness actually works. They are largely taking the nuances and the individualism and the changes and the things that are specific to you and ignoring most of it. So it's kind of like me saying, okay, go out and run 5 miles every single day. That's a good workout for you. And I'm literally just giving you random guesswork on what I think may be better for you. And then completely turning a blind eye to all of the things that you should be paying attention to. And that's often where we get into these problems to begin with. So let's get into a little bit of trash, taking out the trash on sort of thing when it comes to the whole unhappiness deal. Because one of the biggest beliefs in our fitness culture that really drives people into the ground is this idea that you're supposed to be miserable along the way to get the results. So I certainly grew up with the rhetoric, and this is promoted a lot, where the idea is suffer now and be a champion later, right? We hear that in the Muhammad Ali quotes that we see out there on motivation posters and stuff like that. Like, okay, you're supposed to suffer. You're supposed to be making sacrifices like crazy. You're supposed to feel like crap and be miserable and sacrifice quality of well-being in your body, mind, and lifestyle now, because the results will make it worthwhile. And there is a time and a place for that sort of thing. And if I was trying to pass a PT test to be a firefighter, for example, then yes, that can certainly be applicable. If I was trying to get in shape for a peaking contest or for an athletic contest or stepping on stage, absolutely, those sorts of ideas are applicable. However, they are applicable because A, you're already in great shape. B, you're trying to push yourself to a high level of fitness that you can't otherwise maintain anyway. And C, you're trying to get to a certain level of performance and ability that you only need for a finite period of time, and then you can fall off. Most of the time, that's not going to be most people. So yes, if you're getting ready to step on stage, know that you're going to go through hell on earth. You're going to feel like crap. You're going to be miserable. You're going to have low energy. Most of the people I've known who are involved in like bodybuilding, figure sports, that sort of thing, they're like, oh yeah, that is hell on earth. That is in no way healthy. That is no way, making me feel good. It is not sustainable. It is not something I want to do. I just did it because I needed to look my absolute best for one afternoon. And then right after that, I didn't do it anymore unless I did another competition sooner or later. But that's not a good strategy for most people, because most people need to have a strategy of what kind of habits can I adopt and maintain indefinitely. Because the thing that a lot of people fail to recognize when it comes to fitness is that whatever you're doing to achieve a given result of like building muscle or losing weight or whatnot has to be maintained to at least some degree indefinitely. It's not a sort of thing of like, okay, I can suffer now, and then once I get the result, then I'm going to be happy, and then I'm set for life. No, because whatever you did to get to a result is something you have to keep doing. So if you were miserable getting the weight off, if you were miserable building the muscle, you're going to stay miserable definitely in order to maintain those results, because everything in fitness is a use it or lose it mentality. You don't just cross the finish line and then say, good, I'm done, I don't need to do this anymore. No, you have to keep doing it. And even more so, it can be even harder because it's a lot easier to find motivation as you're making progress. When you see the weight coming off, you're getting stronger in the gym and things like that, it's a lot easier to put up with more hardship and more sacrifice because the result feels more worthwhile when you feel and see the changes happening. But as I addressed it in an episode last week when someone was asking me about plateaus and stuff, the reality is that you're not going to be making a whole lot of noticeable progress throughout most of your training career. You're going to be in kind of a steady state homeostatic balance of a slight fluctuating plateau throughout most of your training career, which means that the only way you stand any chance of staying motivated to maintain those habits is if the habits themselves are bringing you an intrinsic short-term reward in order to maintain it. because once you've lost the weight or built the muscle and stuff, you're no longer going to see the changes on a regular basis. So when you're no longer getting that reward on week to week or even month to month, then your feelings of it being worthwhile are going to plummet. So if it was pretty miserable there, it's going to be even more so once you get your results. And that's why one of the best strategies you want to adopt is use methods that are intrinsically, meaning they're rewarding for its own sake, for you. It's not just, I'm doing it to make my coach happy or something. You're doing it for your own sake, and provide a very real short-term gratification. Again, a message in our fitness culture is like, oh, instant gratification is a bad thing. No, it's a very good thing. It's a very powerful thing. If you think it's a bad thing, it's because you're using it wrong. We need instant gratification because we get so much more emotional value for our motivational balance sheet from short-term results. Almost every guy who's working out in the gym is doing it so they feel better, so they blow off stress, like Michael was saying. So I get a good muscle pump, so I blow off stress and feel better about myself. Almost every workout I do is for the immediate benefits of the workout, of how it feels. And the long-term stuff is also coincided with that. But if I only worked out for the long-term benefits, there's no way in hell I'd stick with it. Not even close, because it's not worthwhile. Because all your subconscious knows is, I am suffering now, I'm sacrificing now, I'm uncomfortable now for a benefit I hope might, maybe, possibly be coming to me weeks, months, or even years down the road. I don't know any sane individual who would be excited for that situation. That is not a very sound situation someone should be following. If you are experiencing nothing but short-term detriment in the hope of long-term benefit, you're pretty much dead in the water. You've got to be getting some of that instant gratification. You've got to get some sort of satisfaction and enjoyment from what you're doing now. And that's why things like understanding, the fundamental nature of fitness in my latest book, Be Fit and Live Free, are so important. Because a lot of times we are engaging in diet and exercise habits that require such discomfort and sacrifice and stuff. 9 times out of 10, never mind the fact that most of them are completely unnecessary. You don't even need to do them at all. But when we are doing them and they're not necessary, it's like, wouldn't it be great if I didn't have to do X, Y, and Z? Well, chances are very good you don't have to do X, Y, and Z. And understanding the fundamental nature of how fitness actually works, as I talk about in Be Fit, Live Free, gives you the freedom and the tools to adopt whatever habits are in better alignment for you, so you do get that intrinsic short-term gratification and the long-term benefit. So if you're like, I want to just lose weight, but I hate running, I'm like, there's no good reason to be running then. Zero. It's like, but you burn so many calories. I'm like, yeah, but understanding fundamentally, you burn fat and calories doing anything, any type of physical activity. There's no good reason to force yourself to run. Remember, for every single habit that you do, it's either desired or required. And by and large, any particular habit is not a requirement. So the only good reason to do it is if you actually want to do it. So if you don't want to run and you don't need to run, like I got to run a mile for a PT test or something, there's no good reason to run. Zip, zero, none, zilch, nada. It's like, but there's so many benefits that come from it. Yeah, and you can get those same benefits 100 other ways. So why in the world would you put yourself through doing something you don't like to do when you could do something else that you would rather be doing? Like, I don't know, take a Peloton class or go for a hike in the woods or even just walking around or something. And it's like, well, I'd rather do that. And I'm like, well, then do that. Because when you have the habits that you have a benefit from doing in itself, that's going to make you so much happier rather than spending so much effort and enduring so much hardship physically, mentally, and on your lifestyle, that it's just not worth it. And that's what's most important, is what's worthwhile, not what's so-called effective. Shelky Bay says, my instant gratification is the pump and the endorphins released. Absolutely, my friend. I am right there with you. Most of the workouts I do are for that reason. It's like, I got to get a pump. I want to feel good. I want to feel my muscles really engaging and stuff. Yeah, that's rewarding for me. You could come to me and say, Matt, due to a genetic mutation you have, we've just learned there's not a chance in hell you will build 1 ounce more of muscle and you will never get stronger for the rest of your life. Your muscle level and your strength will never get better from where it is now. I would still be working out. Why? Because I love doing it. It's rewarding in its own sake. And so the other stuff I see is almost a bonus. TV, thank you, respect. Peter saying real and reliable. Thank you very much, folks. I do appreciate the props. I'd say also it's kind of calorie hacking for the last week around the test from 25 to 700 calories, obviously near estimates. Yikes, that's quite a drop, my friends. Holy smokes. So this is the first part of his message saying 40 days ago, you said I could go down from 28% body fat to less. I tested Thursday with the same testing conditions at least last time, got a result 24% body fat. Is it possible to lose 4% this quick? Yeah, absolutely. Because remember that when you're losing body fat, the more fat you have to start off with, the easier it is. So going from 28 to 24%, is a hell of a lot easier than going from like 16 to 12%. It's a hell of a lot easier. So it's the newbie gains, so to speak. When you are starting off, it's a lot easier to make progress. So you're effectively a beginner for weight loss. It's also know that depends on the way you're measuring can be a little bit off, So we could certainly say that one of those percentage points is just because a hydration level was different, time of day was different, your food and your diet could have thrown it off a little bit. So it's always good to take these numbers with a bit of a grain of salt. 4% difference definitely means you lost some body fat. Absolutely fantastic. So congratulations on that. But there's a lot of rhetoric out there about like, oh, don't lose it too fast, don't do it too quick, you should be doing it. Dude, you're gonna make progress at whatever pace you make progress on. It's change in the human body is not as reliable and mechanical as a lot of people will make it out to be. A lot of folks out there will be like, okay, you should put in this much weight on the bar every single week. You should be losing weight at this rate every single week, kind of thing. I have yet to meet anybody in over 20 years of training that can reliably make change happen at that type of pace. It almost never happens. It's usually a case of like, I lost a bunch and then it slowed down and then it was a little faster and then I hit a plateau for several weeks and then it moved again. Same thing. It's like I put more weight on the bar and then I got weaker for a few weeks and it's up and down and stuff. It's like the stock market. No stock is like a 2% increase every single week like clockwork. Never happens. It's always up and down, up and down, up and down, and it's an overall trend. So just generally, it's more of a, make progress when and where you can. When you're making progress faster, great. When it's slower, fine, whatever. It's not like there's a particular speed or rate of progress you're supposed to be at. Those are general guidelines at best, and they're almost never something that can be reliable and adhered to. So getting back to health and fitness making you happier. So understanding the fundamental nature gives you freedom and also gives you the ability to do things that are a hell of a lot more effective for you too. That's why I do calisthenics, because it's much more in personal alignment. I enjoy doing it a lot more. I can push my muscles a hell of a lot more than when I was weightlifting. I just enjoy getting outside. I enjoy the exercise a lot more. There's a million reasons why I do calisthenics that makes me just happier than sitting on a weight machine. And that's the primary reason why I do it. The other thing to recognize is that the process in and of itself should not be necessarily what you hitch your wagon to. Right? A lot of times the ego-driven individual will be like, okay, I can withstand so much torture. I can really push myself when it comes to hard work and everything. It's like, okay, good. Work ethic is very, very important, but don't make the work the goal. This happens a lot in our fitness culture and probably in life in general as well, where you don't have actually the objective to hit your results. A lot of times people make the diet the goal or the workout program the goal. Like, okay, I got to get up tomorrow and tomorrow's squat day and I'm going to do this exercise. I'm going to do these many sets and reps and all these sorts of things. It's like, yeah, that's fine. That's good. But ultimately your results don't come from your diet and exercise habits. They come from how well your habits influence the fundamental processes that do govern your results. And when we lose sight of that fact and we make the goal the diet itself or the workout program that we're following, we lose sight of the actual target we're trying to hit. Like an archer who's trying to get good at archery, but they don't look at the target. They're like, I just got to shoot 1,000 arrows a day. And it's like, well, what are you trying to hit? I'm like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. I just got to shoot 1,000 arrows a day. And it's so much work and it's so hard to do. And the other day I had to do it in the rain and it was so hard and difficult and stuff. It's like, you don't even know if you're hitting your target. You don't have an objective. So in that case, it's like you're not actually training for results. You're not eating for any real purpose. You're just assuming that putting in the work will become fruitful. And therefore, the work itself becomes the goal. And if there's one way that it's almost sure to make you miserable in life, it's to make the work itself the goal rather than the actual result. Because when you are going after the clear result, then you naturally start to look for efficiencies and actually do less work. Because one of the best ways to ensure that you live a happier life, but especially when it comes to health and fitness, is to be very critical of the hard work and effort that you put in and actually strive to do less. That hard work is something of a liability in our happiness. Here in the West, we're certainly learning that over the past generation or two, because many of my peers and stuff, we kind of grew up with the idea of like, yeah, be a hard worker, be really stout fast, nose to the grindstone. If you need to stay and work overtime, do it and turn your weekends into work ends and stuff. And I grew up with that rhetoric for years, and I was always that guy volunteering to do more work and everything like that. But nowadays, a lot of people will criticize the younger generations of like, no one wants to work, no one wants to put in the effort. I'm like, yeah, can you blame them? Because my generation realized it's like, hey, I just put in all of this work and I didn't get anything out of it. It wasn't worthwhile. Like, I bent over backwards for my boss and they didn't give me a raise. In fact, they just made me work a hell of a lot more, which meant I'm now making less money. And, Janice over there, she just sacrificed an entire year of her life. She didn't go on vacation and they just laid her ass off. Like, yeah, of course I don't want to work hard. There's no benefit. There's no reward to it. So instead of criticizing a lack of work ethic, we should be celebrating the fact that we're actually finally getting critical about, is work worthwhile? Is it paying off? And when we have an objective-based approach in fitness, we can finally do that. And we could say, yes, I'm going to work hard, and yes, I'm going to put in the effort, but it better damn well be worth it. And there is no shame at all with saying like, yeah, I don't want to do that. It's not worth it. It's a lot of work that doesn't produce a result for me. And that's not being lazy. That's being smart. That's being intelligent. If our ancestors didn't have that mindset, we would have starved and died off years ago. So being able to be critical of hard work recognizes that fitness is a lot of times just down to simple economics. It's just down to how much time do you have? How much energy do you have? How much motivation do you have? How much money and equipment resources do you have and stuff? And when we are striving for work in and of itself, we run the very real risk of overextending ourselves, of overworking ourselves towards an objective we probably will hit half the time at best. So don't make work itself the goal. Make the objective you're trying to hit the goal. Train to stimulate, eat to satisfy, align to shine, as I talk about in my books. Use habits that bring you closer to what you actually want. And the less work you need to do in order to do that, the better. Because if there's one thing that the social science has clearly shown over the years, is that when people don't work too much, they're a hell of a lot healthier. They're a hell of a lot happier. One of the biggest regrets that people have on their deathbed is they worked too much. And I can certainly relate, because back in the day, before I understood a fundamental approach to fitness and everything that I've talked about, and like my micro workouts and everything like that, my strategy was to just work as hard as possible when it came to diet and exercise. And looking back on it now, I regret most of it. I regret most of the exercises and workouts I've always done. I regret most of the dietary habits I had. There's those sayings out there like, I regret that workout, said no one ever. It's like, yeah, I regret most of my workouts. I would flat out not have done most of them looking back on what I know now. I would have gone into the gym, grabbed myself by the collar and said, get the hell out of here. You're wasting your time. You're making yourself sick. You're making yourself weak. You're making yourself miserable. You are not helping yourself. You're doing damage. You're not doing good things. I really honestly do regret most of the workouts and diet habits I did, especially when I was in high school and college. Full on regret. It's not one of those, well, it was really hard, but it paid off in the end, or I now know better. Nope. Full 100% regret. Deep, deep, deep regret because of all that I did. So thankfully, I don't do any of that stuff anymore. Right now, I put in probably about 10% of the work and effort that I used to back in the day. And I've got far better results from it. Not because I'm, working smarter or anything like that. It's just I know what objectives I'm trying to achieve, and I'm much better at achieving them. And because of that, yeah, I'm a hell of a lot happier because I'm getting better results and because I can do it with a lot less work. Because when we are overworking, we are overextending ourselves as far as physical energy, emotional energy, motivation, lifestyle. We're putting a strain on body, mind, and lifestyle. We're putting on stress. That is not good stuff, my friend, in excess. Some of it is good. The poison is in the dose. But when we're basically overextending ourselves, that is not a good way to go about things. It's not healthy, and it's certainly not going to help you get better results. But more importantly, it's going to make you much less happier on a regular basis. Joseph Bello saying, Matt, getting in shape is only one thing to be completely happy with someone's self. You have to be happy with the rest of your life as well. Absolutely. Because I think a lot of times we're told that, this idea of sacrifice is so important. We can lose sight of the idea that, our fitness is like the be all and end all, and everything else is like secondary. But the fact of the matter is that for the vast majority of us, fitness should not be a very high priority. I'll say it again. I know it's weird hearing that from a fitness channel, but for the vast majority of us, there's a lot more important things in life: relationships, friends, family. Well, generally your actual health, for one, your ability to manage stress and actually do fun things. I've known people out there in the fitness world, and fitness is so much of their life that it's like you see them at a party and like, yeah, if you're going to talk to them, you'd better have something to talk about when it comes to working out or diet or something, because they don't have anything else to talk about. You ask them about any sort of things like, current events, pop culture. You sit down and you're watching a baseball game and you're like, oh, what do you think that they're going to do in the batting lineup and stuff? And they'd be like, I don't know, but I hit a PR at the gym today. It's like, there's a lot more to life than fitness, and most of it is a hell of a lot more important. And when you start sacrificing those things in the blind obsession and pursuit of fitness, now you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. I think that's the saying, where you're literally like, okay, I'm going to compromise my relationships, which are a hell of a lot more important in my life, so I can dial in and be more obsessed about working out and eating right. That, probably won't really make much of a noticeable difference. And I've certainly made that call in the past. I've literally had a girlfriend in college who was like, look, it's me or the gym. I neglected friendships and relationships for the sake of my fitness habits. And again, big regret. Shouldn't have done it, because looking back, those things were far more important than ensuring that I burned my, 800 calories or whatever I needed to do that day. It's like, don't burn the 800 calories. You don't even need to do that. What are you doing, Matt? Like, yeah, but I feel so good from it. It's like, yeah, well, you're not going to feel very good when you get your ass dumped, and all these, and you lose these friends, and pretty soon, you're in college and you're alone on a Saturday night because no one wants to hang out with you because you're just no fun, right? It's like, yeah, but I got, my workout in. It's like, so what? No one cares. More importantly, I don't think I really cared. So I was making big time sacrifices towards really important things for something that honestly really wasn't that important. And yeah, it is important, but only to a certain degree. And it really was more holding me back than anything else. Zero saying, hello, friend Matt. Good to see you, my friend. How easy or difficult is to lose muscle one has built? Well, it depends on training history. I was talking about this the other day with a client of mine, where this individual like me has like been training decades and decades and decades, and they're worried about how they had kind of gone off track for about a month and a half or something. And they came back to the gym when I was training him, and he's like, "Oh wow, I didn't really lose anything." It's like, dude, you've been training since you were 16. You've been strength training and yoga and 100 other disciplines for decades. A month off is nothing. It's nothing in the grand scheme of things. It's not even a blip. Like, I've skied since I can walk. I guarantee you, I can literally move to a tropical part of the world, not touch snow or skis for the next 5 years, come back here to Colorado, ski double black diamonds, no problem. Yeah, I'll be a little more sore the next day, and it might take me a day or two on the slopes to kind of get my ski legs back, but I'd be right back at it. Right. So if you've got a long training history, it's going to take a long time to lose stuff. And even if stuff you do lose, you're going to spring back real fast. However, if you've been working out only for the past 6 months, which I know 6 months can seem like a lot to a beginner, but it's really not long at all, then yeah, you're going to potentially lose it pretty quick. You're going to lose that edge fairly quick. So that's why when you're more in the beginning stages of your training career, for I would say the first at least 3 to 5 years, then you're going to want to make sure you can maintain that consistency as much as possible. But yeah, sometimes people, like I said, people are like gone for a couple weeks, a month or so, and they're like, "Oh no, I'm going to kill my gains." No, you're not. No, you're not. With my adaptive training strategies, which I'll talk about a little bit more here, because that's very important for health and happiness and fitness. People are like, what do you mean? Like, if I don't feel like working out, I should just skip my workout and just work out the next day, or even skip it for a few days and work out a couple more days. How can you even suggest that? I'm like, do you really think 2 days off is going to matter? No, it's not. Especially if taking another day off means that you can have more energy and motivation in the gym for later on. But again, our fitness culture, our rhetoric is like, "Oh, you got to stay disciplined, and leg day is on Monday, no matter what, and if you don't want to go to the gym, you got to force yourself." There's this idea that misery is the path to success in fitness, that you're supposed to be hungry all the time. You're supposed to fight cravings. You're supposed to be anxious about food. You're supposed to feel guilty if you eat food. You're supposed to feel guilty if you skip a workout or take some more time off. You're supposed to not want to go to the gym. Like the supposed self-righteous gym goer is the person who gets up and they're swearing to themselves and like, "Oh, the gym is the last place that I absolutely want to go today, but I'm, quote, disciplined. I'm going to drag myself there and just, oh God." And once I've got like 5 shots of caffeine in me, then I can finally like get a set of crunches or something. That's the rhetoric we're told to champion in our fitness culture. And it's not right, because you look at those who are successful in anything in life, but especially in fitness, they don't do that. They're not dragging themselves to the gym when they don't want to go. They're not the type who are like, "Oh my gosh, food is such a struggle for me," and stuff. Again, you're about to step on stage. You're going through hell in order to get to a peak for a competition. Absolutely. But that's not the way fitness works most of the time in most cases. Most of the time, it should be rewarding. It should be enjoyable. It should be fun. And yes, it's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be uncomfortable to some degree, at least. But by and large, it should be the opposite. I tell clients sometimes, just as a little cheeky reminder, I'm like, remember, folks, this is supposed to be fun. Working out is supposed to be enjoyable. And I tell them all the time, it's like, so if it's not fun, if it's not enjoyable, if it's really chronically like, "Oh, this is the last thing I want to do," you'd better come talk to me, because we got to figure that stuff out, because that is really wrong. That says something's wrong in your program. That says something that you're addressing with diet and exercise is not right. Struggling against the wind the whole time in an uphill battle against yourself, blood, sweat, and tears, and struggle is not the sign of a good program. It's not the sign of a good strategy. It means you're doing things wrong, and you should be making things as easy as possible. Because as I say this all the time when people are like, "What is your number one piece of advice in fitness?" This only works if it gets easier. This only works if it gets easier. It's like, "Oh yeah, it's getting easier and easier and easier for me to do the things I need to do to stay in shape." It's not supposed to get harder and harder and harder. Yes, there's times when it's a lot harder. There's times when it's going to be a challenge, but those should be hopefully short, term and few and far in between. And that's the important thing that we have to really recognize, is that struggle and suffering for the sake of these things is not good. Zaid is saying, Matt, my core training is kind of off, or at least raising the legs part, leg raises. Any progressions from ground up to bar, I'm dropping my ego. Very good, sir. So yeah, generally, excuse me. So if you're doing line leg raises, hands are down by your sides, not hands under your hips. Your abs are supposed to be rolling your hips up, not using your hands for it. Keeping your legs very strict. So basically milk those line leg raises as much as you can. Use the strictest of technique. So lock the legs out, push out through your heels as much as you can. Maintain tension in your abdominals in the bottom position, breathing all throughout. Let your heels come down, gently kiss, and then lift up, but not so much that you're using momentum. Leg raises are a very easy exercise to just build a lot of momentum with, like whoom and whoom and whoom and stuff. So smooth, controlled motion. When you really dial in a strict technique, lying leg raises should be pretty darn challenging. If you can do 20 or more, then yeah, get yourself up on the bar. Same idea though, is lock your back up, make sure your arms are tense, lift your legs, don't swing your legs. Make sure you're lifting under control, pause at the top, and then lower down under control. And that's usually the ways that I will go between either lying leg raise or your hanging leg raise progressions. Is so you want to make those lying leg raise as hard as you possibly can, really milk that technique. And then when it comes to the hanging version, make it a little bit on the easier side, a little bit more momentum and stuff so you can make it approachable. And that's the way I would go about it. Mode is saying, do I prefer isometrics now? I prefer everything if it fits the bill. Yeah, I don't have a preferred tool for any particular situation. I always use whatever I've got for the situation. Truth be told, though, about 99% of everything I still do is, of course, just basic calisthenics. Isometrics are a supplemental thing that I use to amplify things. That's what I've been working on with Dragon Door and the articles that I've been coming out with. My latest one on isometric deadlifts for carryover to dynamic deadlifts is the whole idea of using isometrics as an amplification and supplemental training technique. That's what I use it for now, but calisthenics is still the first love that I enjoy. That's the way that I'll enjoy things now. Let's see what else we got here. Peter. Sorry, I can't, my computer is a little glitchy here. Highest level of war is spiritual, not physical or mental. So a lot of times we think mental is actual, or what we mistake as mental strength and stuff is actually emotional strength. Mental stuff is most of the time just the calculation things going on in our head. When we really get down to the fundamental nature of it. So if I, said, okay, how can you make a program more efficient? Here it is written out on paper, and you look at it and you're like, let me think. Okay, I can move this over here, and I can probably swap this exercise. That's mental, right? When you're getting down into the trenches and pushing yourself, and you're using digging deep, so to speak, that's not at all mental. I know a lot of times we're like, it's mental. It's not mental. It's emotional. And this is one of the things about the fundamental nature of fitness that clues us into the true reality of what's going on, and not something that is correlated versus causation, is that we humans are emotional creatures first, and logic is a far distant second. And so a lot of times what we think is mental stuff is actually emotional stuff. We have emotional conditioning, emotional strength, emotional abilities and stuff. So when we look at, it's all in the head, it's all attitude and stuff. No, it's all in the heart. It's not so much mindset, it's heart set. And when we understand that it's about our emotions that's really in control, now we can actually do something about it. Because trying to condition yourself mentally is, it's just learning facts and data. But when it comes to emotional conditioning, that's where the real benefits are. And when it comes to the happiness of our fitness habits, being clued into our emotional state is very important. I'm always telling folks when I train them, I was like, I'm flying blind if you can't tell me what's going on. I give you an exercise and inside, or even something physical, like, oh, you're doing this exercise and your wrist hurts, unless your form is atrocious or something, I don't know. So you got to tell me these things. I can't train blind. If I can't see what you're doing, if I can't evaluate your technique, everything I give you is just guesswork. As a good coach, everything I give you is based off what you give me. And so when people are doing things, that's why I'm always asking, like, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about this routine? How do you feel about this exercise? How do you feel about doing this sort of thing? And it's very important to be clued into those sorts of things, because if you hate doing it, well, I sure as hell am not going to make you do it. I tell people all the time, I'm not a drill sergeant. I have no interest in forcing you to do something you don't want to do. Because ultimately, most cases and most people, you're going to do whatever you want to do, and you're not going to do what you don't want to do. It doesn't matter if it's beneficial. It doesn't matter what you know and logically think about it on the mental side of things. If you inherently don't enjoy doing something, you're just not going to do it. It's that simple. That's why I want to know, so that way we can change it around and I give you something you do enjoy doing. So a lot of times the mental stuff is actually emotional stuff. Cristobal coming on saying, what is your goal with your training right now? Well, to a large degree, it's kind of in alignment with kind of the overall objective goal that I set for myself for 2025, which is just to feel good. I talk about fundamental objectives in fitness because ultimately, your training goals, like I want to run a marathon or I want to do this and do that and stuff, that's good and that's fine. But the objectives that you're pursuing are far more important and far more beneficial for your actual results. So what kind of stimulus are you trying to create in your workout is far more important than the routine you follow. What kind of foods and how well you're satisfying your appetites is a hell of a lot more important than your diet. Are you seeking habits that bring you more benefit at a lower cost is a hell of a lot more important than your discipline, because those are the things that are actually responsible for your results. Those are the things that are going to be in a better alignment with how the fundamental nature of mother and human nature and how fitness actually works. So my objective for 2025 is to feel good. It's that simple. 2024, I had several bouts where physically I was not feeling so good. I was overworked, I was overstressed, I was not getting enough rest. I would go through long periods of time, sometimes even as well over a month, where I was chronically exhausted and, my body just hurt a lot. The year or so before that, I had a lot of emotional issues, anxiety issues, and things like that. So emotionally, I wasn't feeling good. So 2025, my goal is, I don't care what I do in my diet. I don't care what I do in my workouts and stuff. I just want to feel good again, on the whole. Sometimes you don't feel good, of course. But my goal is I just want to physically, emotionally, mentally as well. I just want to feel good. So I've been curating like a lot of things on social media and stuff, because I noticed that I started going down certain rabbit holes where, it'd make me feel like, angry and upset about things that I would see and stuff. And I was like, okay, that's not making me feel good. Get rid of those sorts of things. Unfollow certain accounts, thumbs down on certain YouTube videos and stuff like that. I'm like, I want to just feel good. So that's the same thing with my workout strategy. I want to feel good. I want my workouts to make me feel energized, not beat up and tired. I started to notice my motivation for working out towards the end of 2024 was plummeting, where I was really losing a lot of motivation and enthusiasm for my training. It's like, okay, that doesn't feel good. Physically, I'm not feeling very good. I'm not feeling as good in my workouts. Okay, something's got to change. No, I'm not going to just bash my head against the wall and say, no, you need to be disciplined. Motivation doesn't matter. Nope, that's the wrong strategy to take. I've done that for years before. It's wrong. It's not good. It's not helpful in most cases. So that's why I started implementing my 2-set strategy that I talked about in my episode last week, because I feel a hell of a lot better doing 2 primary work sets for each exercise. I can push myself a lot harder. I can use much more intensity. It doesn't leave me feeling nearly as drained and exhausted afterwards. It's much more rewarding for the amount of time and energy I'm putting in. So yeah, that's it. I want to just feel good. I just want to feel good in all aspects, when it comes to my habits. And so far, doing pretty good. Doing pretty good with that sort of thing. Joshua saying, like your work a lot, Matt. Thank you very much, my friend. It's helped me a lot changing weight into volume while working out. The book also helped me with technique. Hope for the best. Thank you very much, Joshua. Thank you very much for the support too in picking up one of my books. What book did you read, by the way? And if you have any questions on it, I'm always here to help you, Joshua. That goes for everybody. You know, I've got 17 books I've written here, folks. Some of them are quick reads at $5, PDFs on my website and stuff. Very quick, simple pieces of information that can make a big difference in how you approach your health and fitness lifestyles. They're also available on Amazon, stuff like that. But anybody out there, if you buy my books and you have questions on stuff, I'm always here for you. reddeltaproject@gmail.com. Not hard to find. Please ask me questions, because if you buy my books, I want you to use and make good use of it. I mean, I write these books to change lives, full stop. And if you're having trouble applying stuff and making that happen, I want you to ask me for it so I can help you the more with it. Max May saying, Matt, what is a reasonable amount of weight gain to shoot for per month while minimizing fat gain? I'm aiming for around 1 kilogram per month currently. So this kind of goes along with what I was talking about earlier, where you'll have a lot of stuff out there saying, okay, this is what kind of progress you should make and stuff. And whatever I give you is an arbitrary number. It's guesswork. Because obviously, if you're bigger, you can expect to build more muscle. If you're 6'5" and built like a linebacker, you're going to build muscle a lot faster, in just normal circumstances. If you're 5'4" and petite in build, well, putting on even a fraction of that on a regular basis is going to be hard to do. So don't try to think, okay, what's a number to be shooting for and stuff. Instead, again, look to the objective. Are your workouts stimulating hypertrophy by challenging your muscular capacity? Do you feel the muscle working really hard? And are you really pushing those reps into the red zone? Or are you just basically, again, it's an emotional thing. It's not a mental thing. It's emotional. When you're getting hard and you're like, okay, yeah, that's good enough. Rack the weight. Or can you dig and go, come on, one more. Okay, one more. That's all emotional, my friend. That is going to an emotional level that is really hard to do. So make sure you're doing that as much as you can in your workouts. Make sure you're getting at least 3 meals a day. Good protein source at every single meal. Okay, snacks are also protein-based as well. And you basically want to make sure you're getting in a good amount of calories and protein, eating to satisfy. Okay, don't do any of the diet stuff. If you don't want to be on any kind of restrictive diets, you don't need to be for religious or medical reasons stuff, don't do it. It's not worth it. You don't need it. You're better off without them. Make sure you're sleeping and recovering like it's your job. Okay, so getting a good solid night's sleep is definitely important. Minimizing stress, that sort of thing. And when in doubt, rest. If you're going to the gym and you're like, oh, legs are kind of feeling it today, I'm not sure if I'm really up for this leg day kind of thing and stuff. Yeah, sure. Give yourself another day. Rest, recover, and be able to attack your workouts as much as possible. And under those circumstances, make progress as much as you can. I don't want you looking at the scale thinking like, okay, the scale went up like 3 pounds. And should that be muscle or fat? And what kind of changes should I make in my diet or exercise? Make the progress as fast as you can, as much as you can. And whatever you can get. Don't think you got to adhere to a formula or a certain rate because someone says that's optimal or best. And get exactly what you can to the best of your ability in the best of circumstances. He adds a relative beginner to resistance training. Always favored cardio and team sports in the past. So yeah, you're just like me when I was getting into resistance training in my mid to late 20s, because I was the same way. Lots of cardio. Yeah, it's another big regret. Too much cardio. Way too much cardio. Even as a bike racer, I just did too much, especially in the off season. I shouldn't have done that much. It didn't help me at all. It didn't make me a better bike racer. It was just a lot of wasted time. But as a beginner, you're going to build faster than when you're more advanced too. But yeah, make sure you're just checking off your boxes for right now. Let the results come as they are. make sure that you're getting what you can, and don't neglect some of the lifestyle habits as well. Lou Ra saying, Matt, did you see you wearing Vivo barefoot shoes? Yes, in one of your recent videos. I love those. If so, how do you find barefoot shoes? At the very least, the wide toe box makes them better than worth it. Surely. Yeah, I love them for sure. I think they're fantastic. A lot of times I've had reliability issue with kind of minimalist style shoes. I don't know if it's a manufacturing thing or a cultural thing, but a lot of times minimalist footwear for me just falls apart real fast, and it just does not hold up. But the Vivo Barefoots have been wonderful. I've been extremely happy with them. I need to look back into it. The company had reached out to me years ago for being like an affiliate for them and stuff like that, and they sent me a pair and everything like that, and they were the wrong size, and I was like, I wasn't very happy with them and stuff. But it was because it just wasn't the right fit for me. So it's a classic example of just because it's a wrong fit doesn't mean it's bad. It means it's a bad fit. Same with diet and exercise habits. You want to look for things that are appropriate fit for you, rather than what's good or bad. It's like, well, what's a good fit for you? And so I needed some new shoes, looked them back up, bought these, and they're fantastic. So I got to get back on that, and so I can get you guys like a discount code or something on them. But they're wonderful. I definitely like the Vivo Barefoot. Make sure you use the size adjustment thing that they have on their website too, where they have a way to measure your foot size with a tape measure and a wall and stuff. I did that beforehand, because I ordered, sight unseen, and again, I had the wrong size before. And so I did that, and it says, this says I'm size 8. That doesn't make sense, because I've almost always worn like size 10, size 10 and a half. But their size indicator said I was size 8. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. But I got size 8, and they fit like a glove. They're awesome. So yeah, make sure you do that and get their size indicator for the shoes if you do end up ordering. But yeah, the wider toe box is such a big difference, and more in comfort and stuff, especially in my world, because I'm in the gym all day and stuff and on my feet. So very, very good stuff. Quality seems to be on point as well. I was kind of skeptical of whether or not they would hold up, but they've been holding up fantastic here out in Denver. So putting a bow on things, let me take a look at my notes here. Another thing that can make a big difference in the happiness, as I alluded to earlier, is just change and adaptation. So taking a dogmatic perspective to diet and exercise can certainly make you miserable, because it can pull you out of alignment very quickly. So let's say, for example, you've got a workout routine that requires you to work out an hour every single day, and you're eating 2,000 calories a day, whatever, right? And so that could be great, and that's fine as long as it keeps you in alignment. But life changes, as we all know. So you can get busier, your schedule can change, your nutritional needs could change, your goals may change. And so if you have a dogmatic approach to diet and exercise, where you're like, this is the one correct way to do it, this is the way I'm supposed to do it, I'm never going to deviate from these rules or these behaviors ever again, you're surely going to get pulled out of alignment sooner or later. Because sometimes you're just going to need to eat more. Sometimes you're going to need to eat less. Sometimes you're going to need to work out a lot more. Sometimes you're going to need to work out a lot less. Sometimes a certain exercise could be great for you. Sometimes that exercise could be bad for you. And if you're dogmatic about, I've got to stick to this one thing and never change it, you're guaranteeing practically you're going to pull yourself out of alignment. And that's not going to be making you happy. It's going to put a lot of stress on body, mind, and lifestyle, not to mention the fact that it's going to compromise your results. So adaptation, and again, having an objective-based approach that I talk about in Be Fit and Live Free, means that you get to be in charge, not the diet or the workout program, not the experts or the labels and stuff like that. Like when you go on a diet and you're like, okay, I'm on a, organic vegan diet. Well, now the diet's in charge. You're buying food and you're eating things based on the label of organic or vegan, not whether or not it's actually what you need or whether or not it's going to satisfy your appetites. So you're effectively just taking your hands off the wheel. You're giving up control and autonomy over your own decision making and saying, corporate America, make the decision for me. put the label of vegan or organic or whatever on that candy bar or the donuts or the bread or the food, and I'll just eat whatever you tell me to eat because I've bought into the belief that that diet is healthy rather than what actually I can use and gain benefit from is healthy. It's the same thing with working out. If you're like 5x5 for life, baby, you know, I got to do 5x5 for the rest of my life. Well, sometimes 5x5 is not right for you. So when you employ adaptability, you take back control because ultimately that's what most of us are in fitness for. We just want control. We inherently know that this whole physical thing we call a body in our health and fitness is not something we can ever have full control over. So we employ diet and exercise habits in order to gain more control because we want more control over our health and how we look and how we feel and our weight and stuff. And so when you make your own calls based on how well you can achieve the objectives, what's the stimulus you're creating, eat to satisfy, so on, then you have more control. And that definitely will make you more happy versus being obedient and following the rules as opposed to, okay, here's what you're supposed to do, stick to it no matter what. Again, I'll remind you, a lot of the rhetoric in our fitness culture is that you're not supposed to be in control. You're not supposed to be disciplined and independent and autonomous. You're supposed to be a blind, faithful follower to whatever the rhetoric is. This is the diet. Follow it. I don't feel very good. Shut up. Do as you're told, kind of thing. That's a lot of the rhetoric that's in our fitness culture. That's not going to make you happy. What does make you happy is like, yeah, I know I eat this way most of the time, but damn it, I really like donuts too. So I'm going to eat donuts. That's going to make you happy. That's the sort of thing that, because you're making the call, you're making the judgment for yourself. Truth be told, I hated the idea of exercise for most of when I was younger. I hated running laps. I hated basketball practice. I didn't like push-ups and taekwondo. I did not like anything about exercise whatsoever. And the biggest reason was because I was always doing it according to what someone else told me to do. But the moment I was like, I'm choosing to do these push-ups before bed, I'm choosing to go for a run, I'm the one saying, no, I don't want to eat a candy bar this afternoon when I get back home from school. I'm going to make myself a sandwich instead. The moment I started making the decisions for myself, all of a sudden I loved diet and exercise. And it didn't change anything about what I was actually doing. I was doing the same thing I was always told to do, but I was the one calling the shots. And therefore, I had more control. It wasn't my taekwondo instructor that was telling me to do it. It wasn't the diet that was telling me to do it. It was me. I was the one in charge. And that sure as hell did make me a lot happier. So call your own shots. What are the things you want to do and that you think are best for you to do to achieve those fundamental objectives that are responsible for your results? Because not only are you probably going to get a hell of a lot better results, you're going to know inherently what's best for you, and you can change as events warrant. Sometimes you're going to do more. Sometimes you're going to do less. Sometimes you're going to eat more. Sometimes you're going to eat less because you're the one in charge. Having the freedom and the independence, the autonomy is definitely conducive to a healthier life, a happier life. So I don't know anybody who is living a happier life being obedient to some sort of other rhetoric out there. Instead, they're like, yeah, I started to finally take charge for myself, doing things my way. Right. And that's why a lot of us, when, we start to mature as humans, especially when we become like teenagers and young adults in our 20s and stuff, we have this rebellious streak in ourselves. It's not because we're jerks, although we certainly can behave like it sometimes. We just want to do things our way. We want that sense of independence, identity and stuff. And you absolutely should be cultivating that in your health and fitness habits because it's going to make you a lot happier. And let's see, what other points did I have? Oh, yes. Sometimes in the research of, doing things for the sake of happiness, sometimes it's not so much about doing things that make you happy. It's about eliminating things that make you unhappy. Okay, so here's a common example that that comes about where someone asks, if I have a shorter commute to work and stuff, will that make me happier? I know that from example because I used to live down in Littleton. It would take me 45 minutes or so to drive to work every morning. And so now I live in Denver and I'm like 10 minutes away. Am I happier living closer to work? No, not really. It didn't really make me happier, but it did remove something that made me unhappy. Okay, so when it comes to health and fitness, sometimes we have things that make us unhealthy or unhappy. Forcing ourselves to do an exercise that doesn't align is not right for our body. Following habits that make us tired and weak and cranky and stuff. Or even just something simple like, oh, I do this and my wrist hurts or whatever. Will avoiding that and taking care of that wrist pain make you happier? Not really. But it will remove something that's making you actively unhappy. So notice in your habits, in your lifestyle, of things that don't necessarily, you know, make you happy by getting rid of, but sometimes being happier is about kind of removing the things that are holding you back. In other words, where it's like, okay, I hate going to this gym and I don't like doing this type of exercise. Okay, great. Now, if you got rid of the gym and that type of exercise, will that make you happier? No. That's why a lot of people quit, because they're like, this sort of thing is making me unhappy. And they get rid of it, but you don't get happy. You just feel relieved for a short period of time. And once the relief wears off, you're back to square one. So instead, get rid of the things that are making you unhappy, because you probably don't need them anyway, but also pursue the things that do make you happy. As I was talking about earlier, calisthenics definitely makes me happy when I do it. Going for a bike ride makes me happy. Having a really good sandwich makes me happy. What are the things that make you happy, but at the same time, reducing or eliminating the things that make you unhappy when and where you can? So there's the points on hopefully health and fitness habits, that make you happier. Because when it comes to cultivating beautiful strength, we're naturally attracted to those who are just happier as a whole. And yes, the science does suggest that happiness and emotional disposition is something that is to a degree genetic, but it's like everything in fitness. There's a lot of genetic factors that are outside of our control, but it's also something we can heavily influence with proactive, independent action and something that you can do for yourself. And that's what I want you to take away from this episode. Do things that make you happy. Like I've been talking about how I'm doing things that just make me feel good for the sake of doing things that are good. And it hasn't steered me wrong yet. I've changed my diet, my exercise habits up a little bit, purely because I think it makes me feel, it feels good. I bought a massage gun a couple of weeks ago. I've always been critical of massage guns. I don't think they really do much. Fundamentally, I can't see how they're very effective. But girlfriend wanted a massage gun. I'm like, well, I bought her one. I might as well use it as well. And it's like, wow, that makes me feel good. Will it make me looser? Will it make me stronger? Will it improve my performance? Honestly, it doesn't matter. It doesn't care. I feel good. It makes me feel good now. And that alone is reason enough to do it. And that's why I'm continuing to do it as well. So thank you so much, folks. I am out, but I really do appreciate everybody coming on. Just make sure I didn't get any sort of questions that I missed. John O'Brien says, we all seem to want what we don't have. That's a very good point, actually, relative to this context, because we have a tendency to struggle for the things that are harder to achieve, right? The lean, skinny, ectomorphic guy doesn't really appreciate the fact that they can be lean with minimal effort, but they're miserable because they're like, I can't build muscle to save my life. Or the individual's got the opposite side of things. A big, husky dude, right? It's like, I'm big, I'm strong, and I can build muscle at the drop of a hat. But they're miserable because it's like, I can't get abs to save my life kind of thing. So I guess the final point is appreciate what you got. Appreciate what comes easier to you. Because this whole fitness thing is not a level playing field. There are just some things that are going to come easier to you. There are some things that are just going to be a hell of a lot harder. Now, I will say that the things that come harder to you can potentially be more rewarding when they come at you a little bit, right? If you have a hard time building muscle, building just a little bit of muscle and strength can feel amazing because you're building up with just a little bit of something like that. But when it comes to, feeling good about yourself, take heed of your benefits, your gifts, your stock, because what good is having any sort of benefits if you don't appreciate them? Doesn't do you any good to be able to do 1,000,000 pull-ups if you don't appreciate being able to do 1,000,000 pull-ups. Because ultimately, as I was saying earlier, we're emotional creatures. I don't care what you can do. I don't care what you do. But ultimately, it's how you feel about what you do and your body, how you feel about food, how you feel about exercise, how you feel about yourself. That's going to ultimately determine your results. And that especially goes for the ability to make yourself happy. So have gratitude, appreciation, pat yourself on the back for all the wins that you have, because they're hard fought and you certainly deserve to be proud of them. I had someone the other day who was talking about, they built a little bit of muscle, and, they were working out and they had just a little bit, you could see their bicep coming through and stuff. And I was like, yeah, man, that's awesome. That's respected. They were starting to like, oh no, it's not very good. My arms are still too. It's like, hey, gains are gains. I don't care if you're built like Ronnie Coleman or if you're building up the noticeable muscle first and foremost. You always respect your gains. You always appreciate them because they're always hard fought. They're always won through the effort in your habits. So appreciate it. Be happy with what you have, but don't necessarily have to be satisfied in pursuit of more. All right, my friends, I appreciate you coming on because this does make me happy doing these podcasts every time. This is the fastest hour of my week for sure. So thank you so much for making me very happy and helping me along the journey as well. Don't forget the audio for this is always being published on the podcast directory of your choice. And again, all the resources that I mentioned earlier, all my books, equipment resources that I recommend down below, the link below, reddeltaproject.com. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you folks next week. Till then, be fit and live free.